Animation is a truly beautiful and compelling art form that even now remains one of, if not the most beautiful form of storytelling. In our current cinematic landscape, animation can be divided into three categories: 2D animation, 3D animation, and finally, CGI animation. In this video, 3D animation describes strictly 3D animated films, such as Shrek for example, while CGI will refer to a combination of 3D animation using a live background, such as Jurassic Park. Without further ado, allow me to elaborate on why and how animation is so important to storytelling, and how it can be so incredibly beautiful. While it has admittedly fallen to the wayside, 2D animation is still an incredibly amazing art form. It is arguably the most creative form of animation, and when used to its full potential, is absolutely jaw-dropping. While Disney has been the poster boy for 2D animation, especially during the Disney Renaissance, it has had its fair share of competitors, many of which are able to capture the same magic of the art form. 2D animation is extremely creative, and while there are very few stories that couldn't be done with either CGI or 3D animation, 2D animation is much more equipped to make these stories so much more impactful when done right. A great example of this would be the new Lion King be compared to the original. While perhaps technologically superior, the original has so much more character, impact, and most importantly, color. 2D uses color and light in a way that, while not impossible to do in 3D and CGI, is less common in these other forms of animation. 2D animation differs from 3D animation CGI in the way that it is created. Unlike them, 2D animation is painstakingly drawn, frame by frame, which allows for more expression, freedom of the character designs, and movement. 2D animation allows the films to be more dramatic and memorable in so many ways. Even as technology advances, films like Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Mulan, they're still adored and admired because of how recognizable each film is. Outside of Disney, studios like DreamWorks with Prince of Egypt heralded as the greatest animated film of all time, or Don Bluth in general with films like The Secret of NIMH, Anastasia, or the video game Dragon's Lair, all have unique and amazing animation, and truly are beautiful to this very day. Unlike the 90s and 80s, where Disney was the only animation studio to make it big, we now have a landscape with many different animation studios. From Pixar to Blue Sky to Illumination to DreamWorks, there are so many big players in the animation sphere right now, and all of them almost exclusively create 3D animated features. The thing about 3D is that it doesn't have the same inherent quality control that 2D has. See, 2D animation takes a long time, and it's also very expensive. This is partially why Disney had such a stranglehold. Few others could handle the gamble of an animated feature, and those that did needed to be very sure the product would make it dent. It's no surprise that many of the members of DreamWorks Animation or Don Bluth, the two I mentioned earlier, used to be a part of Disney. While 3D animation began as extremely expensive, it's currently much cheaper than 2D, and significantly easier. As such, it's so much easier to create a 3D film, and it is much more profitable. This isn't to say the companies are destroying animation, man, because they aren't. They're keeping the art form alive. But it is telling that the last 2D animated Disney film was over a decade ago. Now I've ragged on 3D long enough, but when done well, there's so much that can be achieved with 3D animation. While some may see 2D as a superior animation, that couldn't be further from the truth. Since I've mentioned The Lion King before, why don't we compare the original Lion King to a somewhat obscure remake of a specific scene from The Lion King. This scene is from PhilharMagic and Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, a 4D movie, so some aspects of the clip may be strained out of context. However, this scene follows the same basic principles of the original scene. and surprisingly and arguably more truthful remake of The Lion King than The Lion King 2019. To be honest, some of the best 3D has to offer isn't even found in Disney, but instead in many of the smaller companies that work with the art form. One of the greatest 3D animated films is easily Kung-Fu Panda 2. A film that has no right to be as good as it is, and yet still pulls it off. For this film specifically, I wanted to focus on the Cannonball Factory scene. While the film uses red tones throughout, especially with its main antagonist Lord Shen, just by looking at the factory, there's a tense feeling of danger due to the colors and cinematography used wherein. The stunning animation work in this movie is nigh unparalleled and is honestly extremely unique. In terms of animation, DreamWorks is a very unique company that is unfortunately packing crime, but still has a lot to offer. There are also many indie animators working with 3D, something that may not have been possible had it not been for the more inexpensive price of 3D animation. Of course, no discussion about 3D animated features is quite complete without possibly the best of 3D, Into the Spider-Verse. There is so much to unpack in this film, but to be brief, Spider-Verse is such a distinctly original film, even if it's based on the Marvel Comics. Simply looking at the animation, which is the point of this video, there is so much to unpack in terms of how, even despite the fact that it is being rendered at 12 frames per second, it still looks beautiful. The use of color, how it really honestly looks like it's from a comic book, and it has such an amazing and beautiful art style that's greatly appreciated. And more importantly, it's so well executed. When done lazily and without heart, 3D can be a disappointment. But when done well, 3D can be just as great, if not even greater, than 2D animation. CGI faces much the same dilemma as 3D animation. It largely replaced another equally powerful art form, being in this case, practical effects. It's not uncommon to see CGI ragged on time and time again for being inferior to practical effects. But the argument is not completely wrong. Great practical effects, much like great 2D animation, are very expensive but look amazing. They truly immerse the viewer into the film and make it easier on the actor to react to something real than to react to something that simply isn't there. However, that being said, CGI can be used effectively when done well. And the first example would probably be the one that kickstarted the entire movement of CGI that we see in cinema today, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is a great example of a more subdued CGI, one that is meant to reflect reality or be more grounded, despite showing something that can't be achieved with practical effects, or at least achieved realistically. From the raptors in the kitchen to the T-Rex escape scene, something important to note about this film is that its CGI is intertwined with practical effects. There are raptors in that kitchen. There is a giant dinosaur in that range, but for some shots, CGI was needed. In this example, it's used sparingly, and as such, still holds up to this day. Similarly, Terminator 2 achieved much the same principle, being much more grounded, quote-unquote, and only using CGI when needed. Whenever possible, practical effects were used.
Here it gets interesting. You see this helicopter going under a freeway overpass? Yeah. That's a helicopter going under a freeway overpass. The crew...
That was real?
The camera crew said, we won't shoot that. So I said, okay, fine, I'll shoot it myself. And it was just me and the insert car driver following the helicopter through there.
You mean that guy really just flew that under that overpass?
Yeah, it was Chuck Tamburo.
Looking at modern films, this practice of only using CGI when needed has been lost to time, and a different but equally amazing practice of more bombastic CGI has become much more rare. This is especially common with newer blockbusters, but 3 films in particular stand out in this regard. The first of which is the last Jedi. The whole maneuver is such a horrible scene. It makes no sense to the context of the story, let alone the rest of Star Wars. From a writing standpoint, there's so much wrong in this one scene, but I'm not looking at the scene from a writing standpoint, but rather an animation standpoint. From that point of view, the scene is amazing. The fact that it looks amazing is its own detailed essay on whether or not it deserves that credit, as some cite Disney's enormous wealth as the reason the scene is good, others cite the religion of Rian Johnson, and all I'll say is that, and this applies to the rest of the film, while the visuals are amazing, everything else needs a lot of work. Although, it's too late now, I suppose. Moving on swiftly, another modern example comes to us from the land of the rising sun, Japan. Shin Godzilla is a 2016 monster film that features a very different look at the titular monster, and features many strange, surreal, and even at times very creepy scenes. But easily, the best one comes near the second act, where this happens. Principles detailed previously of utilizing colors to its fullest potential is seen here, with the contrast of the glowing purple against the fiery background. This scene is so iconic and powerful in so many ways, and it works well because of the animation. See, animation can't make a bad scene great, but it can make a great scene better. The final example of CGI done well is somewhat recent. It would be none other than the criminally underrated Godzilla King of the Monsters. The entire film uses color like no other before, with each monster having its own visual motifs, and these motifs clashing during the film's many different battle scenes. There's so many amazing scenes from this one film, but perhaps the greatest example of these motifs is Monsters Awakening. The use of color coincides perfectly with the music, and the animation is so simple yet spot on for this. It just everything works perfectly, and the animation and use of color just boosts it up by so much. I doubt they could have made a single one of these scenes without CGI. I mean, of course, most Godzilla films are made via tokusatsu, but this film is different. It's so distinct from most of the older Godzilla films, and it really does have its own visual flair that is completely insane. Overall, CGI can work, but most of the time, it simply isn't used to its fullest potential. Overall, animation is an amazing and beautiful art form that deserves to be respected in the cinematic landscape. I haven't mentioned stop motion in this video because it will significantly bloat the runtime, but all in all, I hope that perhaps you, the viewer, may have learned something important and beautiful about this very unique part of Hollywood, animation.